Today on Rad Science, I'm talking about circles. Yep, plain old circles. So what's great about circles? Well, aside from forming the basis of most modern transportation when used as wheels, circles are pretty fun to play with. And they can be used to demonstrate the physics of a rotating object when in the form of a hula hoop. This fairly unstable object can be maintained around a person's waist with a minimum of effort. How does it work? Okay, like I said, a hoop is just a circle. But some people are able to do some amazing tricks with just this simple shape. Luckily, it's not magic, but based in physics. The first thing to consider is the shape of the hoop. Because it's a circle, it's also radially symmetrical, which puts the center of the circle's mass at its center. When you move the hoop, you shift its center of mass in space. If you push directly towards the center of the circle, it moves in a straight line, back and forth, right? However, if you push along the side of the circle at a tangent, you can make the circle rotate. Any force sufficient to accelerate rotational movement is known as torque. When you put yourself into the middle of the hoop, you become the center of the hoop's rotation and the source of the force that moves it. If you let go of the hoop, ouch, it'll drop to the floor due to the force of gravity. So how can we overcome gravity and keep the hoop up? We need to take advantage of three forces: torque, friction, and centripetal force. Stay tuned, and I'll tell you how. Okay, so here's how the hoop defies gravity. Friction is the force that's generated when objects come into contact. It resists movement. The friction that's generated between your hips and the hoop is one of the most important factors in keeping a hoop up. It allows your hips to provide support for the hoop's rotational motion. According to Newton's first law of inertia, objects in motion will tend to stay in motion. So do objects that are rotating around some point. They will continue to rotate dependent upon their angular momentum. Angular momentum is the rotational equivalent of mass. Objects with more mass are more likely to keep moving. And that's why these big hoops are easier to keep up than the cheapo kids variety. They've got more mass. If I give the hoop a little toss around my waist to get it started, I'm imparting energy into the hoop through physical action. You'll see the hoop rotate a bit due to its momentum, but it won't stay up because the momentum can't be maintained without your continued work. Friction against my body and the air slow it down, and gravity acts on the hoop to bring it down. To keep it up, you have to apply force to the inside of the hoop. The force you apply has two components, outward and tangential. Centripetal force is the amount of force that's required to keep an object spinning around an axis. And it's always directed perpendicularly toward the axis. So, you are the axis for the hoop. So you must produce enough outward force to overpower gravity that wants to pull it down and get the hoop up horizontal. And just moving to the front and back or to the side and side is not going to get very far because you're not imparting any force to keep it spinning. To keep it going, you also need to move your body at an angle relative to the surface of the hoop. This creates torque and conserves the hoop's angular momentum. The final element is timing. Because your hip oscillations power the movement, they need to be just slightly ahead of the hoop, pushing it along. So I'm going to let you ruminate on all this info for just a bit, and when I come back, we'll put it all together. All right, do you think you have it yet? Friction at the hip keeps the hoop on you, movement of your hips outward keeps the hoop up, and movement of your hips at an angle keeps it spinning. You supply the energy to put it all in motion. In that spirit, I want you to send me pictures of you putting physics into practice with a hoop. Sarah Jessica, you want to go first?